let this go. This season was messy. Hey y'all, it's Bree with the B Face, and today we have another Ready to Love review. This is gonna be kind of like a two-part. I'm just gonna do in one because I missed the reunion part 1 last week. And so we're just gonna do reunion part 1 and 2. So I think that's episode 13 and 14? Or 14 and 15. I think it's 13 and 14. So we gonna get into it. So in the reunion, there wasn't a whole bunch in part 1. I feel like there was a little more in part 2, but I did notice Laverne's cutoff shorts. I was not a fan of that suit with the cutoff shorts and high socks. I didn't understand the point. I thought Tommy looked amazing in his monochrome moment. That was a really good look on him. I like the color too. It was a really good color for him. There was a moment where Sabrina was talking and I thought the camera panned to Ace and Wiley kind of chuckling, but I don't know if that was just timing of the camera panning or, you know, an edit, or if they really were kind of being shady, because Sabrina was talking about how the process was for her and dating multiple people, and then she said at the end, well, the more the merrier, and then that's when the camera cut to Ace and Wiley kind of chuckling to themselves, and I was like, was that shade or was that editing? I'm not sure, but it was funny. Then they got to the truth or dare. So this was kind of focused on Sabrina because I think the biggest issues came from Sabrina's connection with Demetrius and Tori, right? So they're recapping Truth or Dare, and Laverne is just happy that no one's blaming him anymore, and people are kind of analyzing what actually happened with Truth or Dare. And I don't know, Sabrina seemed like she was kind of backtracking a little bit, trying to justify the things that she did, and then at the end she was like, well, I probably should have just tapped out of the game. Yeah, girl, you should have tapped out of the game, because, I mean, it didn't really do anything except stir up some mess. I don't think it did anything positive, because no one who played that game and said who they were interested in ended up together except for Joy and Clifton. So, yeah, I don't know. It was messy. The game was messy in and of itself, but you make your own choices, so I get it. Her and Joy got into it. Now, if we were doing this separately, I would have said, well, Sabrina's just not letting Joy speak. But having seen part 2, it seems like Joy has a little combativeness where if she feels she's right, she's gonna get her point off regardless of what you say. But then Sabrina also has this thing of, I'm not wrong, so I'm gonna get my point off, right? So, you know, they're kind of going tit for tat there. Joy was, so the issue came because Sabrina said that Joy made it worse for Tori because it was embarrassing when when she said, Tori, go get your girl, and Sabrina wasn't going that direction, so that it was embarrassing. And then she also said she didn't expect that response from Tori. Don't know why. But Sabrina's thing is like people were making a lot of assumptions about her connections. Okay, cool. Joy's saying, we just came off a deliberation where you were raving about Tori. That's when Sabrina cut in. I wasn't raving about Tori, I was raving about Demetrius. Joy's like, can I get a word in edgewise? So they were kind of going back and forth about assumptions and why are you speaking for Tori and all of this stuff, right? I mean, nothing got resolved there. And then, so when they were in the middle of like cutting the scenes and they did this backstage moment, there was a point where Tina went up to, I don't know her name, the girl that got eliminated like the first night. She went up to her and was like, I know you don't care, but I blocked you on social media because I blocked everybody. And I didn't understand that because you prefaced it with, I know you don't care. So if you knew the girl didn't care, why'd you say it? It was giving attention grab. Like, why did you feel the need to involve her in a conversation she didn't even seem like she started? Like, you came from another place, went to where she was, started a conversation, said that, and then left. It made no sense to me. I really didn't understand that. Tina was on one with that one. I didn't really get it. Then we went to the incident. So they were talking about the incident with Eric and Dakia. The whole thing has been vague from the beginning because Dakia hasn't really given a whole bunch of details. She really just said he touched her inappropriately. She didn't like it, and so she didn't want to date him anymore. That was really the long and short. Eric started off real good. He started off with, I have nothing but respect for her. She's an amazing person. We had a great connection. And, you know, if I hurt you, I'm sorry. I didn't intend to. Started off real good. Dakia, Dakia is explaining how she feels. She says she wishes the apology had come sooner. And Eric's like, well, how could it have come sooner? I didn't know it offended you. And that's what she was like, you absolutely knew it offended me. Because when it happened, I turned around, I hit you in your chest, and I said, don't touch me that way. Paul, you were there. Didn't I do that? You absolutely did. All right, then. Okay. So then Eric's like, let's keep it here because the he said, she said it's not going to get us anywhere. So let's just keep it right here between us. Let's just keep it about us. And so they kind of went back and forth a little bit about that. And then Eric was like, well, I was trying to be nice and ish. Whoa! When he said that, I was like, that was surprising to me. I really did not expect him to kind of do a 180 like that. He really flipped it and was like, about her. Like he just had all this stuff to say. And at the end of that segment where they just have to end it there because clearly nothing's happening, it's just arguing, Joy leans over and hugs Eric. Now, ma'am, at no point was anyone talking to you. So you did that intentionally to hurt Dakia, and I don't understand the point of it. It wasn't necessary. It feels like you're just being mean. Like you're just being mean, and I don't understand that. I'm really not a fan of just mean-spiritedness, right? Just being mean for the sake of it, right? It just didn't make any sense to me, but you know, it is what it is. Messy is what it is. So then we get to Sabrina's harem, right? This is no shade. This is literally what Tommy was acting like. It was just a whole bunch of males circling Sabrina because she was kind of a hot commodity on the show. And so the first thing I noticed is Donovan be for real lying. And it is evident by his defensiveness and meanness when called out on said lies. So one of the things that happened was apparently, Donovan's already mad at Sabrina. If it didn't work out, why did you have to be mean about it? Why can't you just let it go? Why are you still so mad at her? Like, why are you still so mad? So they're talking, thinks she's a liar and all these things. And Sabrina's like, but you told me that if you had gotten on the show earlier, you'd have ended up with another woman on the cast. Tom was like, who that? And Sabrina was like, Joy. Precious pipes up and said, you told me that too. Dakia pipes up, you told me that too. All right, Golden Girls. Now hold on now. If you didn't say it, you could really just say I didn't say that. You don't have to be so mean. Why is that your knee-jerk response is to say something insulting to people if they have an experience of you that you don't feel is accurate? Just say, that didn't happen. Like, it could be so easy. These people make it so dramatic and hard. I don't get it. So there was also another incident where apparently Donovan told Demetrius that him and Sabrina kissed. And Sabrina was upset about that. Well, Demetrius was upset about it. But Sabrina was upset because he didn't do that as like a bro thing. It seemed like he did it as a get back at you thing, because she said he didn't tell him when it happened. He sat on it for weeks and then told him. And he did that to cause some sort of discord in mine and Demetrius's relationship, is what she's saying. I'm inclined to agree, because if it were really for the other person's benefit, you would have said it at the time, right? You wouldn't have waited until y'all are now on bad terms and then told that person. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, Donovan, you and Carmen be on this petty train. Like, petty patties, the both of you. I don't get what the purpose is. I really don't understand. So then we get to Laverne's corner. So y'all remember at the mansion the first night, he had his little corner and he was like, they could just cycle through. They just be coming through, right? So Ace and Laverne ended how I feel like most people expected. He probably wasn't doing the right thing because he said it was his fault. And Ace said she was looking for a real relationship and he was looking to play around, basically. So, I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe the tap out shouldn't have come when after he got eliminated and production asked him about his connection with Ace and he said, you win some, you lose some. I don't get it. Especially if his story is correct about coming in there knowing that he was gonna get eliminated. Would you not have time to manage your emotions then? You know what I mean? Like, if you came in there ready to say what you had to say, then I don't understand why you would say that about Ace, because then you should have had time to process those emotions, whereas people who are getting eliminated on the show generally shouldn't know, which is probably why they tend to lash out. And, you know, one YouTube couple has the Naya Award, right? Which person on the cast is gonna get the Naya Award because they walk out without any grace or class? They just guns a-blazing because how dare you reject me, right? But at that point, it seems like his point is that Ace had already told him people were intending to vote him off. So I don't understand why you wouldn't have been better prepared. It didn't make sense to me. He gets into it with Precious. There are some inconsistencies about who told who what, and I'm not entirely sure what the argument is here, but I did notice that Ace wasn't saying nothing. Like, I mean, there was just nothing being said from her end, and it seems like she's kind of in the middle of it, so I would like to hear her side of the story, which she does give in part 2. So when I initially watched this, and I saw the previews of part 2, I didn't like seeing Joy and Dakia argue because it seemed as though Joy does not leave room for anyone else to have any experiences or perspectives or, you know, opinions different from hers. Didn't like that. She kind of was on one in the previews. Precious has smoke for everybody, namely Laverne, Carmen, and Demetrius. Paul and Tina get into it for some reason. And then we see Clifton get on one knee. And so when I initially watched this, I was like, oh, he's proposing. Maybe something about this process does work after all. When I watched this, I'm not gonna lie, I really did think this man was proposing, and I said, and I'm gonna put a clip of what I said because I did do a review, I just didn't like how it looked. So I just decided not to post it. Clifton is on one knee, and I know they too doggone old for promise rings, so if a man at that age is getting down on one knee and not proposing, throw the whole relationship away. Like, what are you doing? We're 40. It's very funny to me about what I said about him getting on one knee, and then we're gonna get into part 2. So that is it for reunion part 1 reviews and previews and all. Now, reunion part 2. So we are picking up with Precious and Laverne going at it. And so, like I said, I didn't really understand what they were arguing about because it seemed like they were arguing two sides of the same point. Like, it seems like Laverne is saying Precious told Ace that Sabrina, Carmen, and Tina were clicking up to basically vote me off. Precious is saying Sabrina told me that Carmen called Sabrina and called Tina, who didn't pick up, but called Sabrina and basically said we need to vote Laverne off. Sabrina jumps in and says, yes, Carmen called me. She called Tina. Tina did not pick up. So, Carmen called me and said, basically like the couples are gonna make it hard for anyone else to get in, so we need to break the couples up, hence Laverne. And Sabrina was like, I just said that Laverne was already in my bottom because we didn't have a connection. I didn't say I would click up with her on this particular point, but when she heard me say he was in my bottom, she kind of got what she wanted anyway and kind of hung up after that. Carmen is vehemently denying any of this happened. She's, you know, her standard line, have receipts. Precious called me. Precious, I did not call you. And so everyone has smoke for everybody else. Everyone thinks everyone is lying. I don't understand why Laverne and Precious are on different sides, because they're really saying the same thing. And Tommy finally asks Ace what actually happened. And Ace, in her calm Erykah Badu voice, says, I didn't think that what Precious was saying was anything malicious. We were just girls chopping it up. And she told me that Carmen had called Sabrina with an intent to break up couples. However, Laverne, I told him that he was my strongest connection, and that's where that ended. And then they ended that segment there, because really it was going nowhere. I mean, I really don't understand. I like truly don't understand why Precious and Laverne were arguing. So Demetrius and his BDE could kind of concur. He does give off this really confident energy and not cocky at all. He doesn't seem like overly confident. He just seems like he's secure in who he is, and he knows who he is, and I definitely can see how that's attractive. He does seem, at the very least, confused about why he and Sabrina didn't work out. I think there were just some inconsistencies that they never really got to talk about, and I don't think that they're really interested in doing a post-mortem because it's done. He asked her what she wanted after the show. She said just to be friends, and he was like, okay, I mean, if that's what you want, I can understand why you wouldn't want to dig deeper into that. I mean, there's no sense in going into why it didn't work. It didn't work. We gotta move on. So I do get that. I do get that. They showed a clip from really the very beginning when Paul was on the bottom and Precious had to come tell him he was in the bottom, which was really interesting because Precious was riding for him that whole entire time. And seeing that clip again, it seemed like he was talking to her kind of harshly, but I thought he was really talking in general terms. I didn't take it as he was talking to her, and it sounded like she was, or seemed to me that she was just kind of letting him get that off his chest, you know, because she never said that she felt any of those things for him. She just said, I'm communicating what the lady said. However, it seems as though what actually was happening there was he, from her perspective, was talking at her and saying all those things at her, and she didn't really get it because he was always in her top, and so, you know, it wasn't like she thought those things about him. It wasn't that she wanted him to go or thought anything negative about him, but he probably took that, her delivery as, and not even just the way she said it, I think he took her just being the person to deliver this news as a personal attack, so he had to get his opinion into the mix, right? So he gave kind of a cop-out apology. It is what it is. Precious is like, I'll work on accepting that because I didn't like it. So yeah, I mean, that's Paul. They did also talk again about the Carmen and Dakia situation at brunch. Carmen, kudos to her, did admit that she only brought up what Paul said to her because she was hurt. I did appreciate her admitting that because, I mean, she was hurt and she wanted to be hurtful. And Dakia picked up on that. And it didn't seem like they were going at it anymore, so good for them. But I will say Paul's story has changed a little bit from when it aired, because it seemed when like what we see at brunch, he's saying, I didn't say that. I was talking in general terms about, you know, the type of person I want. Well, at the reunion, he's saying we were talking about her specifically, and because I didn't say I was or was not attracted, she just took it as I'm not. I'm like, that's a little bit of a different story, Paul, than what you said. So, I don't know. I have a hard time like deciphering what Paul would or would not have said. I'm not gonna lie, it does sound, from what he said on the show, I wouldn't put past him. I would not put it past him. And Dakia and Paul did not even end up together. They weren't feeling each other for real. It was a very late connection. It seems like they really just ended up good friends after that. I don't know. I don't get it. But I'm very glad that Dakia has found someone, and her talking about the guy that she thinks is her person, her face is lit up, and she just really seems happy, which I'm happy for her. And I can understand it, girl, being frustrated that you had to go through this whole mess, deal with all these messy people to find the person that was meant for you. But I'm glad she found somebody, and Paul has found exactly what it seemed like he wanted, was some young thing to put up with him. And so happy for you. I'm glad that the both of them have found what they are looking for. Very happy. Then we get to Tina and Paul. Tina says Paul is a liar and was only there to promote some book, and you know, she was on a call with somebody who exposed him, and Paul's like, I'm a music producer. I've never claimed to be an author or an artist other than my music, and blah, 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 blah. Listen, it tracks that he was there to promote something. It's TV. What are any of you there for? To be honest, I feel like a lot of these TV shows, not just Ready to Love, literally every single one of them, I think you go on them to promote yourself, to be seen, or to promote something you're doing. And I think sometimes a byproduct is that a relationship happens out of it. If you find love, cool. And if you don't, probably weren't there for it anyway. Tina was saying a whole bunch of other mess about Paul that really didn't do anything to make her look better. She says about her ghosting the process, that she did what was best for her. Tommy's trying to get her to see that, you know, if you were gonna be here, you should have been here to the end, and given the process the respect it deserves. I feel like she was a little disrespectful when she said, Tommy, do you want an apology? That made her seem worse, honestly, because I feel like just admitting that I could have given you the courtesy of saying I wasn't going to be where I said I was. But that would have required admitting some level of wrongdoing, some level of I could have done a better job at this, some level of maybe I wasn't right in that situation. It doesn't seem like she's really ready to do that. It is what it is. I mean, that's you, girl, and if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. So Tommy's like, I'm done with you. I wish you had to come on this show. Tommy looked a little upset about that, and I feel like that was a really disrespectful thing to say to him as the host, and he's really not gonna go off on you, really. I mean, what is he gonna say? You're a whole adult, and if that is your delusion, then that's your business. Then they get to Demetrius and Precious. They have a whole argument about Demetrius saying she seems like she's a party girl and kind of wants to be in a club and blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why Precious was so mad about that, because, I mean, yeah, he did say that she was a party girl, but she even said it herself. He is not God. His opinion is not law. So if you know that that is not true about you, why does it matter, girl? Like, you could just, that's not who I am, and keep it pushing. But do you want him to admit that he was wrong about that? Do you want him to apologize for saying that? I think part of it was, he's like, that was not only my opinion. I was speaking for the guys. The guys have said that. And none of the guys chimed in at any point to say, yeah, in deliberation, we all said. And I wish they had shown the clip where they talked about it. I feel like if you had shown the clip of them in deliberation where a couple of guys have said they didn't appreciate the innuendo, they didn't appreciate how she was acting, and Demetrius was really saying, I just don't understand, or I don't see if there's any depth here. Like, I don't understand what sort of depth you're looking for in a relationship, because the conversations that we have don't seem very deep. They don't seem like they go anywhere. And so that was my perspective. So I didn't understand why she was arguing so much. It seemed a little bit like, some inner stuff that, like, it was probably more about, I feel like every response, every large, excessive response is probably more about you than it is about the other person, because truly, if that's not who you are, if you know who you are, you don't have to go off about it. You can just sit in who you are and who you know you are, and trust that the people who see you can see that too, but going off about it, probably didn't help. It probably didn't help. So, and she sure did leave. She got up, called him all sorts of B's and N's and FU's, and got up and left. So yeah, she let that affect her a lot. I don't understand why. And if it bothered her, I feel like she could have called him afterward and told him calmly, like, after it happened, told him, this is what I felt when you said that, and I didn't appreciate what I perceived as you spreading this untruth about me. So what I need from you, or what I would like from you, is fill in the blank. But I don't know, arguing doesn't get you anywhere. So you kind of make a point to the other person when you react in these ways, right? So, or make a point for the other person when you react in those ways. But emotions are emotions. They're not always rational. So there you go. Then we get to the Joy, Dakia, and Clifton situation, which I still didn't like. I didn't like what Clifton said at the end. I didn't like how Clifton and Joy acted after, Dakia and Clifton actually had a conversation about what was going on there. It didn't make sense to me, because first of all, Joy, I feel like, was being a bully in this situation. Clifton wants a pass for not communicating, and all Dakia is saying was, my experience with you is that we had a connection, and I would have appreciated if you had just been clear with me and told me that you were moving in another direction, instead of just waiting for me to assume it, or just waiting for me to get it through osmosis. Like, I didn't understand why Joy was so upset. Like, girl, you won. Have a little grace. You have room for that. You do. I don't understand why you have to be so mean. And this goes back to the point that I said earlier about her not liking for anyone else to have an opinion other than hers, or there's no room for a perspective other than hers. She says in this thing, well, I get, you have feelings. Everyone has feelings. Okay, if you get that, why can't Dakia just have room to feel hers? Why do you have to have it validated through you? Why can't she just feel what she's feeling? She's not vilifying Clifton at all. All she said was, me and Clifton have had several conversations where I have asked him to be clear with me whenever he has made his decision, that he would just tell me, I've made this decision. Now, I don't know if Clifton's just sipping on Joy juice and he just forgot about that. Now that Joy thinks that there was no reason for clarity, he's jumping on that train and was like, oh, I get a pass. There was no reason for clarity. But you had that relationship with Dakia. Joy didn't. So and his thing is, I felt like Truth or Dare should have made it clear. That wasn't the conversation y'all had though. The conversation y'all had was, when you make a decision, tell me about it. And I'm of the mind that you probably had the conversations about, when you make a decision, tell me, after Truth or Dare. So why would you assume that? Why would you assume that? And like I said, she wasn't vilifying Clifton at all. She just has an experience of him. And she feels like she deserved an explanation. Not even an explanation, just clarity at that point. And if that's her experience, let it be her experience. It doesn't have to be validated by you. She has a different one than you. She has a different experience than you. And she's happy for you. She's not trying to make any mess in between it. She said several times that she sees that y'all have a connection. So why does she have to shut up and not be hurt by what happened in a connection that Clifton had with her and nurtured? Just because in his mind it wasn't the same as with Joy, how would she know? How would she know that? I really didn't like any of that. It was so mean-spirited. I just feel like Joy was being mean in that moment. And her laughing when it's at the end and Dakia's crying about, her connection with Clifton ending. What was the point of laughing at that? You just look mean. You look mean. You look mean. It was not nice. It was not kind at all. I really didn't like that. And you get glimpses of that through the season. I was always rooting for Joy and Clifton. But ever since that situation with Demetrius, where she went off on Demetrius for no reason when she thought she was going home, I didn't like it, because I just felt like, people do this. This is the show. And so because you are feeling rejected or you're feeling some type of way, now Demetrius is all sorts of names. Now Demetrius isn't here for love. Now Demetrius is here to start some mess. Come on now. Like, none of that tracks. You're just mean-spirited, and you don't like when things don't go exactly the way that you think they should. That's just not nice of her. Anyway, Wiley and Tiffany are still dating. That's really all that needed to be said about that, because I don't understand why Wiley went off on that one girl and was like, oh, you're still watching my stories. Hun, if someone follows you on Instagram and they are of the mind to watch stories, generally what happens is that they'll just pick one and then they'll click through. This is what I do. Tap through, then the next one comes up. Tap through, next one comes up. Sometimes I just swipe it because I really don't care, right? Or, you watch it because it's interesting. Her watching your stories doesn't mean she's checking for you. I don't understand why you thought that, or why you thought to bring that up. It didn't make any sense. It's not like she's in your DMs. Like, it's like you equate the stories with being on your BDE. That's not the same thing. That didn't make any sense at all. Joy and Clifton, so we're at the end now of part 2, and we get to Joy and Clifton and their, little arc, and he's talking to Clifton about that long distance relationship, and apparently he's been in Mexico every other weekend, which is some level of commitment, because DC and Mexico are not 3 hours away. So you are flying cross country every other weekend. You about to be a frequent flyer and have a whole bunch of rewards, so good for you. But clearly y'all are in love. Clearly y'all have found something real, and good for you. Good for you. That was not an engagement. I think he asked her to live with him. He didn't say those words, will you come live with me? Because they're probably already doing it. He just gave her a key and was like, will you come home with me? So I don't know what that means. I imagine that just means they're living together, because they also talked about having a baby next March. So, I mean, hey, if you're talking about having a baby and she's not living in Mexico anymore because she's not performing, he better come off of some sort of bill, right? So, I mean, yeah, living together and having a baby. I did want to say, no engagement, right? They seem to be committed in this way, right? I mean, a baby, that is a large commitment. Living together, that is a large commitment. I think for me, because marriage is a big value of mine, sometimes I just apply that to every situation, right? But I think I know that does not apply to everyone. And that, not saying that they don't value marriage, I'm saying that is not the order of operations for everyone. So I can't apply that to everyone. So hey, they're living together. They seem very happy. They're about to have a baby. Yay. That's the end of the season, y'all. I want, this is my wish list for the show. Tommy is of the mindset that if at least one couple works out, the process works. Tommy's process works, is what he says. One couple does not a successful process make. I will say that. But if you put 20 people in a room and say go for it, I'm sure there are going to be connections. That's just what tends to happen. I feel like if you're in proximity, you have some level of something in common. And I feel like you already started with age, black, location. You probably already do have some level of something in common. So if you put 20 people in a room and say go for it, you're likely gonna have some level of relationship that forms, right? I feel like that's why some of these shows do work, because that's just what tends to happen. Relationships form and attachments form. However, there aren't a lot of people who have stayed together after this. I think, and I don't know because I can't find too much. I feel like I've looked before. Season 1, none of those people are together. Season 2 was the one with Alex and Divine, or was that season 3? The guy who was with Tandy and then broke up with Tandy and was with Riva, Mario and Riva, I think, are still together. I don't know if the guy who looks like Tyrese and Taye Diggs, if he's with Joy. I know they're doing a podcast together, so that's something. And I think there was a couple from season 2 who got eliminated pretty early on, but they got engaged, I think. So that's what, 3? And then 4. There have been 6 seasons of the show, so I guess 1 almost every season. I don't know if that makes it successful. But what I will say, I would love to see Iyanla Vanzant host the reunion, because I want her to like call out some of their behavior, and then I want her to do her signature, not on my watch. I want to see that. And I just think that, you know, I feel like I maintain that every single one of them needs therapy. And while this does not substitute for long-term counseling, I think at least it's a start. So I would love to see Iyanla Vanzant make an appearance at some point, similar to how they do with Married at First Sight, where they kind of make them go to the marriage counselor person and they kind of help them work through whatever issues they're having. I feel like maybe there should be a session, like take the person that you're most interested in and go see Iyanla Vanzant, or Iyanla comes to like one of their brunches or retreats or something and she makes them do exercises like writing all the nasty things that they've said about each other on the walls. And then she'll just come in and be like, that is your sister. How dare you? I am my sister's keeper. I really like Iyanla Vanzant. That is it for me, y'all. Thank you for watching. If I missed anything, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in whatever's next. I'll see you next time. Bye.